This game was totally nuts and probably one of the craziest attacking game I ever played. I'm playing as white and I decided to play e4. My opponent replied with e5, knight on f3, and already comes the surprise. My opponent played pawn on d5. Now this is the Elephant Gambit. It is not the best gambit ever, but when someone plays it, man, you're going to have a crazy game. So the best move is taking. You can just take it. And the usual idea is that you want to play e4. And after you play e4, there is queen on e2, pinning the pawn, and you build some pressure on the pawn, trying to win it. You have already up a pawn. It's clear that black gets counterplay, but I don't think is enough with this pawn. But instead of playing this, my opponent replied with a different move. He decided to take, which is a sideline, and I didn't know what to do because I probably never faced this move. So I decided, okay, let's follow the plan. I know there is knight c3, but I can play knight c3 later. I'm going to play queen on e2 because it's quicker. The point is that if you play this, I have knight on c3 and I can win the pawn. So this just prevents everything pretty much, so you have to defend the pawn, and after that I'm going to play knight on c3. So knight on c6 and knight on c3 attacking the queen. The queen moves, what to do now? So apparently d4 is an idea, and basically Stockfish is saying you can give a pawn at this point, so you are the one that is going to gambit, but after the take, if queen take, you are going to have an incredible position because you just develop a ton of pieces. There is also knight on b5. Going back, I didn't play this move. I decided to play knight on b5 because I'm crazier pretty much. So knight on b5 is not just a random move, it kinda has an idea. I'm attacking the queen, so the queen has to be close to the c-pawn because otherwise there is just a fork. And also after that, I can play the move d4 and it gets trickier. So yeah, it is kind of a cool move. After I play this, in fact, you cannot take. Looks like you can take the pawn, but if you do that, I can take with check, or I could even take the queen and then take with check. So this is completely losing, obviously, so you cannot take. My opponent replied with a6. And now, in order to follow my craziness, I decided to play d5. Now, d5 is a really crazy move. And it kinda works. It doesn't work because there is the move knight on b4, which I totally missed. The point of knight on b4 is that after you go back, you can just pin the knight. Well, you said this was the best move. So apparently it's no more bishop on g4, it's bishop on f5. Oh yeah, okay. You can play bishop on f5, and I guess this is hanging. And there isn't an easy way to defend. Probably there is this, but doesn't look really safe to me. So going back, I totally missed that idea, but also my opponent, because he replied with knight on b8. And by the way, if you take, I'm going to be better, because after this happened, you are up a pawn, but I can win this one. And it is a central pawn, you scatter this damage, so I should be better. He replied with knight on b8, and now we can just go back with the knight. Yeah, I didn't sacrifice it this time, but I mean, it's fine. Knight on c3, going back, defending the pawn, everything is defended, and this pawn is under attack. If you push it, you lose it, you have to do something about that. So he decided to play knight on d7, which is a good move, it makes sense. And now I replied with bishop on g5, just keep adding pressure. And the idea was that I wanted to provoke f6. If you play f6, you are weakened on the light squares, and I can take advantage of that. My opponent decided to play knight on f6 instead. And what can I do now? Now I can be pretty aggressive. First of all, I decided to castle long, which is the best move, makes sense. I might threaten to push. This rook is great. Pressure on the knight, which is pinned. Pressure on the pawn. There is pressure everywhere. Something crazy could happen. He played h6. What to do now? I definitely have to bring the bishop back. Do you think I decided to bring the bishop back in a position like this? Well, first of all, I could just take. And if I take, you cannot take with the knight, you lose the pawn, so you have to take this way, and I'm just claiming I'm better positionally, and you cannot castle, so yeah, that does make sense. But I'm crazy, and I decided to play a really cool move. It's not the best, but it kind of worked. Like d6. What is the point of d6? You kind of have to take it, and it's still going to be better. So you take it, and the point is that I'm using the fact that the knight is pinned so that I can play knight on d5. Knight on d5, attacking the queen, threatening a fork, and this looks great. Queen on d8, but this is not the end, because this wasn't only my point. I saw a crazy line, and I anchored a crazy combination, which is so crazy that could be called brilliant. I decided to take the knight first, and after you take with the knight, and by the way, with the pawn would have been better, but after you take with the knight, you left a defender of the e5 pawn, and we can sacrifice the knight. What is the point? First of all, if you take, well, knight on c6, first of all, I win the queen. So you can't do that, obviously. You can't take the knight. And apparently the move is bishop e7, but what happens if you win the piece? Well, it wasn't free. Queen take, the bishop block. By the way, if you block like this, I can take with check and win the queen with check. So he decided to block with this bishop instead, but at this point comes the check. With the discovery on the queen, so you have to sacrifice the queen, I decided to take, and this is the position I got. Now, it's not over. I mean, technically it is over because I'm up a lot of material, a queen for the rook. Although I still have to win this game, this crazy game. So what I decided to do was, well, he still cannot castle, so I'm going to put a lot of pressure on him and try not to make him castle, and if he still decided to castle, he's going to face all of my activity. So I decided to take the pawn. The rook is under attack, you need to waste the time. You cannot castle because you just lose the bishop. You move the rook, and at this point I took the pawn. What is the idea? The idea is that if you don't castle now, I'm going to give you a check, and this has to be losing, absolutely losing. And let's say you block with the bishop, I could even take the rook because the bishop will be pinned. So he decided to prevent this by playing rook on c5. Apparently castling would have been better, although if you castle you just lose a piece, so this kinda saves everything. But it really doesn't, because after you play this there is queen on b8. Queen on b8, what do? If you play this you get mated. If you play this, you lose a piece, so you're going to lose a piece anyway. You decided to block with the bishop. And at this point, there is bishop b5. Bishop b5, which I totally missed. Well, I should have seen it. Makes a ton of sense, actually. So bishop on b5, you cannot take it because you get mated, so you have to play something like king on f8. And at this point, I don't know what am I supposed to do, apparently before. Well, to be honest, I prefer the other line. Like, it's not clear why I should win material at this point. In this case, I can just win a bishop. Now you might say, you're going to lose a piece because the bishop is pinned and attacked by the rook. That is not true. I mean, it's clear that I'm going to lose the bishop, but I'm going to win my opponent one. So, at the end of the day, after this continuation end, I just won a piece. You can give a check, I saw it, I don't get mated, you can take all the pawns you want. At this point I can just trade pieces, put pressure on your pieces, and win the game. Rook on f1 pretty much ends it. You have to take, otherwise you lose the knight. He didn't, he lost the knight. This happened, we attack the rook. You basically cannot save the rook. I mean, you can give a check, but after that there isn't too much to do. And if you save the rook this way, I can just mate you in the move. So yeah, this was the game, was totally crazy. And I think it was really cool. I played a really good attacking game, the conversion was great. I know I didn't play the best move in the middle game, that's true. I played too aggressively, but I mean, that allowed me to make this video and to create such a fun game. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon in the next video.